Listen, listen. It is not whether you are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Republican, or Democrat. It's if you are ready to fight for justice for all, no matter what label you are under. Listen, listen. The question is not whether can you die for me. The question is whether can you live for me. If we understand our differences, our similarities will have substance. Listen, listen. The struggle is real. We can and must win. Listen. We can and must win. Listen, listen. It is not whether you are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Republican, or Democrat. It's if you are ready to fight for justice for all, no matter what label you are under. Listen, listen. The question is not whether can you die for me. The question is whether can you live for me. If we understand our differences, our similarities will have substance. Listen, listen. The struggle is real. We can and must win. Listen. We can and must win. All right, we're here, we're back. And you know what? See, and here you go. See how they do me? I told everybody that the famous Betty Andrews was going to be with us today, but I didn't want to bring her on right away. But look at that beautiful face that we're seeing right already here. So I've been busted already. But you know, here's the thing. It's time. It's 6 o'clock. You know, actually, it's 11 minutes after 6. You heard the theme song. So we need you to do what? Right now. Need you to call everybody, text everybody, tell them it's time for real conversations with a KO. And now let's be clear. The last few shows have been real conversations. And we've been talking about women, because this is Women History Month. Even though, you know what my belief is, women history is 365 days a year. It's not just like black history. We don't have black history just for 28 days every year. We're here. We make history every single day when we wake up in the morning. And women have been making history, oh my goodness, from the beginning of the time. No matter what you want to believe, no matter what your belief is, from Adam and Eve to, till today, women have made history. And you know that the belief, my personal belief, is I believe is my faith that, boy, paradise is at the foot of the mother. And that, boy, when you talk about women, you're talking about motherhood. You're talking about the dynamics of an ability that has been a gift to women that makes them strong. And I tell you, I show you, and I mean it, I show you any successful man, and I show you where a woman's beside him. No. Listen, I didn't say behind him. I said beside him. I'm so sick of people misunderstanding what that means. A woman doesn't get behind a man. If you see a great woman, she's right there by his side. And she's plugging away there. And sometimes she has to uplift that male because, yeah, and I know some of you men get a little mad at me, but we get stupid. We really do sometimes. We lose it. Yeah, we do. And that's because we have lost our nature. Not every man, don't now the shoe fit, you just gotta wear it. But a lot of us have lost our nature. It's just like we look at the nature of a woman, you know. And now here's the difference is you show me a woman who is messed up, having problems and everything, and I show you where she had a man in her life. Yeah, I'm very serious. And I know y'all get mad when I say that, but it's a reality because of our conditioning. It's not your fault. Listen, it's not your fault. It's your conditioning. We have been conditioned to be silly. We've been conditioned, you know, let me tell you something that everybody can relate to. When I grew up, if it wasn't for some older brothers that I hung out with at the bootleg joints, yeah, I was told by men, some men, a man ain't supposed to cry. Don't show you no emotions and everything. Now, you know how crazy that sounds? You've been blessed with tear ducts. And they weren't sitting there just so they can say you have tear ducts. You know, no, you're there because they are there to have emotion. It's all right to have emotion, and it takes a real man to know how to cry. But it also takes the nurturing. Oh, listen to me. It takes the nurturing of a woman for you to understand who is. She starts at childhood in birth with her children on bouncing them out because she's been giving that by a gift. So understand, when men and women are balanced, then they're side by side with one another. You know, it's not competition. It's not you look better. It's not you make more money. Because let me tell you something, a good woman, she don't care if she make more money than you. You the one that have issues. Oh, you make more money than me. Yes, and that's okay. Or she's not worried about you making all the money. You know, the key is we have to learn to respect one another. And boy, we've had some dynamic women on this podcast. Well, so call people today, tell them we got another dynamic sister and woman. Let me be clear, but she's my sister. She's my queen mother. She's my heartthrob. You know, that's on this that has produced and given Des Moines history and her making history. And that is Betty Andrews. Welcome,
Yay! So happy to be here. Thank you so much, Akeo, for bringing me in. And I hesitate to saying Akeo because I call you Godfather, just because I feel like you are the one. And when it comes to all of the things that you have done, and I just appreciate you, appreciate this opportunity to be here, and looking forward to the conversation. I want to just acknowledge, I appreciate your comments about Women's History Month, and I think it is important to recognize that women's history, black history, is 365 days a year. But I also especially appreciate this time in a world where sometimes women are not acknowledged, but to have the opportunity to take some time and have an entire month, just like we do with Black History Month, and take the time to have some special spotlight shined on women. And so I know that's what we're here to do today, and I appreciate just being able to be a part of this conversation and looking forward to
well, you're an
joining you
integral
in
part.
this hour.
Let me be clear. You're an integral part of this conversation. Because, Betty, first of all, I want my viewers to know who you are.
Okay.
You know, now, are you from Des Moines? Are you from somewhere else? Bring us up, you know, like Betty. Who? I'm asking you. Who is Betty? How
is
did Betty
Betty?
get molded into who she
Well,
is
first of
today?
all, I think most people know me. So, I mean,
Okay.
I'm not new to the city, new to the
Right.
state. I've been here. I was raised here. I was born in Texas, but I came here as a toddler.
Okay.
And so I've been here for a lot of years. And came up on 10th Street, 16th Street in Des Moines, went to Tiny Tot,
Wow.
ran up and down these streets in the neighborhood, and have came up through Moulton schools and went to Tech High, did a little bit at a couple of Iowa colleges, and standing before you or sitting before you right now. My background is broadcasting. I was a public affairs director for a series of 3 and then 5 radio stations. So I actually hosted several radio shows. People always ask me if it was 89.3. It was actually the country music station, so I was the voice on the country music station, and then also some rock as well. But that allowed me to talk to a number of people in the community, and just kind of backing up a little bit on that. As I mentioned, my family is from Texas, and understanding the power dynamics there, and then understanding the power dynamics here. I think first it kind of thought about community service or being a part of the community as a little girl, and wondering why there were certain things that were in place, and even internally within our community, why we looked at our hair and we called it good versus bad, and what was that about, and how could that be a thing? And then looking further at the history that we have had with the Black community, and why there were so many inequities. And I think that over the years, that process led me to think a lot more about what we can do to improve the lives of not only African Americans, but certainly African Americans, but also just all Iowans, Americans, and I think that's why I've come to do what I do.
And you do a lot now. Let me be clear. I mean, every time you're moving, you're doing something. But
I even did a movie, by the way. I was in a movie.
What movie?
Oh my gosh, I forgot the name of it, but I am on IMBD. You can actually look me up. I didn't star. I was in a movie with the girl from Charmed, and I actually had a small role, but it paid well, and I was.
Oh, shoot.
Good, yeah.
I didn't know I was sitting next to a movie star.
Well, I wanted to be an actress originally.
Did you really?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
Actress. That's kind of why I went to into broadcasting.
Okay.
At some point, I did a little bit of newscasting and all of that as well, TV, and then and that's actually what got me started. And I would say also, if I think about it, my broadcasting piece is what opened it up for all of the community work that I was doing.
Wow.
Because I was interviewing folks on my radio show, and they were inviting me to do things, or something sparked my interest, and I ended up doing a lot of that. I also should say that I do own a business, Betty Andrews Media. That came from me interviewing with the lieutenant governor at the time. She had a diversity conference. She contracted me to do diversity work, and kind of connecting her to the community to promote her conference. And that was actually my first entrepreneurial venture.
Wow.
And so I can say that the Lieutenant Governor Corning started my entrepreneurial life, and from there just kept going. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then each year, you just got more involved, and next thing you know, and so then two things, three or four things I can name that you were dealing with, and I think you were before. Let me say, before I'll Make Me a World, before the Justice Summit, it was the NAACP.
Nope.
No. Before then, what was that before then?
So again, I wanted to be an actress. I was before that, the broadcasting. And then I started working with the Metro Arts, if you remember that.
I do.
They used to do the Jazz in July program.
That's right. That's
and
right.
then I started, I working with the Des Moines Playhouse. And I became vice president of the Kate Goldman Children's Theater.
Wow.
And through those connections and other connections, I ended up finding in my broadcasting piece, finding out about I'll Make Me a World in Iowa.
Okay.
And I found out that they were just starting it. And so I was like, oh, this sounds something that really worked for me because, we were going to promote African American community, which was what I desired to do. And we did that through arts and culture. And then the NAACP came because I was really good at working with the media.
Okay.
So I'd get a lot of calls from the media asking about an incident or something that happened, and I'd always direct them to the NAACP. Everybody knows the NAACP is the organization you talk to when you want to talk about
Right,
black people,
right,
right?
right.
And so I kept sending them to the NAACP.
Okay.
And when I sent them to the NAACP, I was like, you know what? I'm sending people over there, and I do go to the banquet every
Right.
year. But since I'm sending people, let me go ahead and check out what they're actually doing. And so at that time, probably 2007, 6 or 7, where I was like, okay, and that's when I kind of got active in the NAACP. So it was actually some time after I'll Make Me a World before I got involved with the NAACP. And then, and so, and the Justice Summit came along, the Iowa Summit on Justice and Disparities came along when even separate, I was doing some of the communications work for the NAACP, but separate from that, I found out about our horrific incarceration rates and
Right.
looking at why for every one white person per capita, there were 14 black people being incarcerated, which is ridiculous. And looked at that, and then began to understand that there were several factors that were playing a role, but it was something that not a lot of people were talking about it. I think at that time you knew, Wayne knew, but most people were not aware of those stats. And then even further, for the people that did know, it was, we knew a little bit. And I was like, we got to go deeper. And I started going deeper and deeper and understanding all of the ways in which that happens, and wanted to make sure that we educated the public and brought them along when it came to these incarceration rates and the challenges that we are experiencing in these areas, which are again devastating. But then it was an opportunity to say, okay, how do we shine a spotlight on this? And so and it wasn't about an approach of pointing fingers, but it was about an approach of making sure that people in every aspect of the justice system and also every aspect of the community came together and said, we have a problem. And if we have a problem here, what are the strategies that we are going to do and work together to solve them? And so, and that resulted in the Iowa Summit on Justice and Disparities. And since then, that concept has kind of taken off. We have produced one in Nebraska as well. And we're looking at the possibility of nationally taking that on. But that, in the NAACP was definitely a support and a sponsor of the Iowa Summit on Justice and Disparities, aka the Iowa Justice Summit. And it really became a platform where not only were we able to bring people together to talk about it, it was a place where we had government officials, including our current governor and previous to that, Governor Branstad, make some significant criminal justice reform announcements. Even our Iowa court system taking some steps to mitigate some of the disparities within the juvenile justice system. So that has been a platform not only for you know, talking about it, but it's also been a platform for true action. And certainly that that fight continues, especially in the current climate. But I'm sorry,
No, no,
but
true.
but it is something that we can stand on and say that we have been able to see some movement, even down to the piece about making sure that the formerly incarcerated are now able to vote, which is a huge deal. That people with felony backgrounds, that's something that we worked on for a number of years through the NAACP, and then also leveraging the Summit platform, that they can vote, but not just vote. They also are able to serve on juries. And why is that important? That's important because if juries are not diverse, and actually what studies say, the number of studies that say that diverse juries are more accurate. They actually dispense justice fair. They're more fair. And that's important because when you're up against if you're a young black man and you're up against an all-white jury, you may not have hope. You may take a plea when you really probably should have gone ahead and pushed back. But and a lot of people are not aware that white people actually are convicted at a higher rate than black people. But what it is that black people take more pleas. And that changes the game, and that's why one of the reasons why our incarceration rates are higher. But I know that's not the full topic of today, so just
No, it was part. It was part of it. I've been sitting up and enjoying myself, But, okay, and everything you said is profound. Let me say that. Everything you said is like, wow, there's hope and everything else. We got others that want to get involved.
Absolutely.
What's the struggle now? Those are the pros. What were the cons for Betty?
No, those were not the pros, but okay.
Okay,
but yeah,
I
okay.
said results.
No, absolutely.
But for Betty's struggle, because it hasn't been easy, Betty.
Right.
So what about your struggles? Getting involved, being there. The sleepless nights.
Yes.
This is a real conversation now.
And so I will just say this because I do get a lot of love from this community.
Yes.
We have been offering this past year a free civil rights legal clinic that we are hosting every month, which I'm so proud of. And we actually have volunteer lawyers that are helping folks with their civil rights related cases and stuff like that. So I'm very proud. And when I say I get a lot of love from people, whether it's I'll Make Me a World, where I love because people come in and it's black joy, or the work that we're doing in the NAACP or the Justice Summit or some of our other pieces, the Nine Institute for nonprofits as well. I feel like I'm honored to be a part of this community, and many people just come up and express gratitude. But I will tell you that it absolutely is a struggle. Sometimes I am working more for some of my volunteer ventures than I am for my own business.
Right.
I'm paying staff to work it. I'm staying up all night. I'm, being relentless, and that's a good thing. But it also takes a toll. It's stressful. You're always wondering. Money. I think I have probably the same struggles that any other nonprofit person in nonprofits may have. But certainly the work it's tough, but I just feel like it is what we have to do. There's a song in the black church, and probably in the just generally, it's we have to hold up the bloodstained banner. We have to fight, although we have to die. We have to fight until we die. We have to hold it up till we die. So my point is, this is what I feel called to this. This is what we have to do. This is what I have to do. I may, do it in various iterations. I'm not saying I have to do it this way all the time, but it's certainly something that is my life's passion, and um, it's important that we make these kinds of strides. I think one of the things that we often hear is, you know, I'm one of those people, and I'm sure many people out there are one of those people that says, "Oh, we need to do this, and we need to do that. We could do this better. We could do that, or we need to make a change." And the question becomes, well, who's going to do it? And one of the things that I often say is, I look to my left, and Dr. Martin Luther King wasn't there. I look to my right, and Rosa Parks wasn't there. I look to my back, George Washington Carver was there. And I'm like, well, Lord, I guess it's me. And so that's the approach I look at it. I'll also just comment on bringing people together and people supporting. I'll Make Me a World in Iowa, which is Iowa's African American Festival, for those of you who don't know, has a wonderful collection of volunteers that come together and work for months in advance and do a number of things and just give their heart to make sure that our culture is shared. And I'll just pause and say that sometimes when people say, I'll Make Me a World, you're celebrating NAACP, you're kind of advocating and pushing back. And, how do you do two such different things?
Right.
And I like to tell people, no, it's the exact same thing. When we are working on Black Joy, when we are working on making sure people understand our heritage and our culture, we are advocates. We are advocating for who we are. So they're the same thing. They may be two sides of the same coin, but they are both important, and they are both about supporting and promoting our culture. So our volunteers, they're powerful. We usually have several volunteers that work each year, and then for the NAACP, that's based on the national organization and the membership, and a lot of history there. And I'm grateful for all of those people in Iowa, in Des Moines, that came before me to support and advocate and make space for me. I think about just across the state. So we just had our state area conference meeting, and for those of you who don't know, I am not the president of the Des Moines branch. I am the president of the state area conference of the NAACP. So that means that we have about 30 units of the organization in both Iowa and Nebraska that I preside over and work with. So you may see me in Des Moines, but also I'm around the state as well and working with folks there. And so what I really enjoy, and even just as we had our state area conference meeting this weekend, is that, as much work as we think we're doing here in this city, it's amazing to hear when you hear from Waterloo and all of the work that they're doing. You hear from Davenport, Cedar Rapids, Sioux City, Omaha, Lincoln, all of these communities. They're very, the issues, of course, are very similar, but it's amazing that there is a team of people that are there standing up, holding up that banner, making sure that this work gets done. So it is, the truth is that it is, I hate saying sides, but the other side is often relentless. Those laws that they're passing and changing, and the erasure that's happening, it's constant, it's relentless. And it's so good to know that there are some dedicated folks that are right there. They're relentless. Not only are they fighting back, they're pushing forward. It's not, definitely NAACP work is reactionary. We have to react to some of the craziness, but also it is a work where we are promoting and pushing forward and being proactive. And so I am grateful for all of those. In terms of getting people to volunteer, we live in different times when these organizations have started. So we and as the I serve on the national board of the organization as
Right.
well. So one of the things is we've been making sure that we keep up with technology and um, asking the question what membership looks like these days versus in times past, and continually updating and making change. I was at the beginning of the program when you said something. I did this. This is my generation, right?
Right.
But now they're clocking it. So,
Oh, that's what they do now? See, I didn't know that. April,
so
y'all didn't tell me that. Hey, how come y'all got me snapping
April's of the
fingers
snap generation.
Y'all got me going like this.
Yeah.
Elena, is that what they do now?
Yeah.
I didn't thank you, Betty.
Yeah.
You brought me up to date.
But my point is,
Yeah.
we're always having to make sure that we're staying up with the times. We do have a Des Moines youth program that we are working on right now, so we'll be having a meeting soon. So if you're interested in having your young person be a part of that, we would appreciate
Excellent.
you reaching out.
And we got some young people. Betty, I want to go back just a little bit because
Yes,
one thing that I'm enjoying this. Let me be here because through your media, expertise and where you're at, not only do you ask the question, you answer the question. And I said,
I'm so bad.
No, I'm glad.
But I will interview myself real easy.
You're good. You're doing really good. And I'm sitting up there learning so much. But I want to get personal.
Yes.
I want to get personal because, I heard you, go 30,000 feet and, talk
I
about the
will.
volunteers. Yeah, you did. And, talk about the volunteers and you gave them all the accolades and everything. But Betty, the volunteers, yes, they believe in the mission, but they believe in the mission because you have sold a mission. You have sold a mission, and then they follow it. And I'm not just using anybody's example. I want to use me as an example. I mean, if I'm sitting there and I look down at my phone here, and it's Queen Mother's, Betty Andrews calling me,
Yes.
I answer it.
Yes.
All right? And then it's like, Brother Ko, can you do da-da-da-da-da? And it's like, yes. It's not even a question.
Because we need the Godfather's voice.
Yeah, but not say, there you go, give me that. But I say yes because of who you are and because of your commitment, because I watch your success. And I guess I'd like you to, now talk to some of our young people that are listening out there and people who are now commenting and stuff, tell what brings that out in Betty? Why do you have a KO that will answer the phone and say yes, when sometimes, he don't answer other people's calls. Let me be clear. But he said yes, because I watched I'll Make Me a World, and I watched the volunteers. Nobody complains, folk fall in line, but I watched you walk around. And I watch the people walk around, and they're making sure what you have laid down, Betty, is in place. And I watch your attentiveness. I watch you deal with everything. You got some people out there listening and saying, how does she do that? Where does that come from? What inside? Where does that come from, Betty? And I don't want to hear about the other people.
Can I say it's the God in me?
Yeah, you can. But where does it come from? Because Betty, here's the thing. It's like an automobile. All right. You buy a brand new car. You enjoy that car. But somewhere down the path of that car that you're enjoying, that new car, somebody started the process of putting that car together. Now we see the car.
Yeah.
We see the I Make Me a World. We see the car. Just a sandwich. We see the car. It started back here putting it together, Betty.
Yeah.
And it started with you putting it together. Where does Betty get that from? How does Betty stay there? Because putting it together, putting them nuts and bolts together has to be difficult. But you don't give up.
I do think, thank you for that question, and definitely probably need to reflect on that more. And sometimes it's a little challenging to talk about myself. But I do think that my drive for I'll Make Me a World comes from wanting people to see, I could say our people in our best light, but I'll say our reality, that we are a noble people. And that doesn't mean that other communities are not a noble people, but, I was born black, so we are a noble people. And so when I think about what drives me, it is wanting to make sure that we are in place and that our power is shown. I'll Make Me a World, for me, is it's a passion project, of course, but it's also a place where community connects. And I often hear, this happened at I'll Make Me a World, or haven't seen people that I haven't seen in a long time. People call it the family reunion and that kind of thing. And I know that Juneteenth people experience very similar things as well. But it's important that the history is not lost. It's important that we continue to invest in ourselves, and that's the goal. I don't know if I'm answering your question well, but I think it just simply comes from loving our people and loving um, what they do and who they are, and making space for them. So
Yeah. One of the things that Minister Farrakhan said to me at dinner, when we were having dinner, and I don't want anybody to think that him and I just had
I
dinner.
know. I'm like, we
No,
was
not
it.
yeah, yeah. I want to be real clear that I was
Where he
with
at?
just a few other people. But I was honored because we got to sit next to each other. And he looked at me and I was nervous, I'll be honest with you. But he looked at me and he grabbed my hand like this. And he said, brother, we have to love our people more than they hate themselves. And that has stuck with me
Yeah.
all these years because that's one of the driving
Yes.
factors with me is that if you commit to this struggle like you have, and we have seen you do that, you got to love people more than they hate themselves because everyone that smiles, I love the song Smiling Faces, everyone that smiles isn't there with you. But you keep going in. I've never seen you turn anybody down. I've never seen you not reach your hand and raise somebody up. And I don't know the history of you and all the people, but I've never seen you look down on nobody. And that's a gift. That's a gift from God, and I want to say that. So I want to give you your flowers while you're here.
Oh, thank you.
Without a doubt, but the thing is, in this climate today, Betty, that's hard to do.
It is hard to do.
That-
It is hard to do, and to your point about we have to love our people more than they hate themselves. Our first language is love, and we are taught to hate. And so sometimes it's a matter of even showing our people the love and showing, like, if you peel back the hate, what is there. And that's why I
Right.
actually say that I think some of my critical thinking in this area began on the subject of hair, good hair versus bad hair. What is a acceptable skin color versus not an acceptable skin color, and taking a look at that and asking the question, why is this important, why does it matter? And I think that's what's led me here. And so that was a form of loving ourselves more, or loving our people more than they hate themselves.
Okay.
So,
What
yeah.
as a child, who was your inspiration?
Ooh. So my mother, of course, was. I say, of course, she was an awesome woman. Um, uh, you know, raised us. Was married, but ended up raising us as a single mother, which was very powerful. And um, you know, did what she needed to do. She worked for a hospital and became a supervisor and all of that. So that and that was one piece. And I also think about, you know, people ask me, you know, who's your mentor? I don't necessarily have one mentor, but
Okay.
I have a lot of mentoring personalities, and they are everything from people that I looked at far off, like Mother Evelyn Davis at Tiny Tot, and you know, another person that she made space for, to, you know, my current friends, you know, and just women that I see that are committed to excellence, and you know, I could Terry Caldwell Johnson, Renee Hardman, Jackie Easley, Elsie Jackson. I can probably go on and on. I better stop. But those women and women like them were always inspiration. Not even necessarily that I was buddy buddy with
Right.
any of them, but I am buddy buddy with some. But more so just being inspired because just watching other folks take action. And so, and I also think, quite frankly, I'm relentless. I'm a fighter. I'm, you know, just like a lot of people, I think I know too much, and sometimes I'm wrong, and I know I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong sometimes, and so, you know, understanding that, and then I think also the wisdom of the years, like growing of the years and understanding even what drives people psychologically. You know, we all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, we all want to be connected. So sometimes that outburst that you experience is not necessarily just an outburst, and it's about them, it's not about you. So being able to do that, but also just seeing, quite frankly, seeing some of the way that some of the things that are launched against us really can affect us. They really can hurt us. The things that are happening on Capitol Hill are really dangerous to what is, you know, what is going on. So, and I know just personally, I don't know. I was that one person that probably um, can't keep my mouth closed when it comes to, you know, seeing something and you know, want things to be fair and that kind of thing. And I've always been about fairness. I'm not trying to be above you or below you. Just fairness, because we're all people. We're all human, and that matters. And so that's where I land. I don't think it's. I wish I could say it was some kind of profound, divine action, but I will say that I am called to this work, and
Right.
that is divine. So I'll say that. And again, whatever the way, we all have a calling.
Yeah, we do. We worked together on a bill. You know, I mean, we supported NAAC on several bills, but
Yes, yes,
the More Perfect Union
yes.
bill, that was in the 20s. You know, it was a time of turmoil in the street. You know, you were one of the
It's 2020.
individuals
Yep.
that was working behind the closed doors, you know, with the governor and
Yep.
others. You know, what, share that experience, because that was a time that Des Moines, I think people were frustrated and mad, but a lot of people didn't know what to do, and everybody doesn't understand the components that went into getting that bill passed in a 2 week period of time, which
Yeah.
was history itself.
Yeah. So I will say that the way that the NAACP works, we are working on more than one idea and more than one
Okay.
strategy at a time. And certainly that was something that had come up, and it was related to a number of things when it came to law enforcement. Of course, we were experiencing the tough parts of 2020, of course, being the COVID piece, but also the murder of George Floyd, and that experience, and people were, pushing every which way. So it was just an effort that we actually felt like we'd gotten some traction with the work that we'd been doing with the governor, whether it was on that bill around law enforcement and or even the voting rights piece. Um, but and we did. I mean, the African American legislators and the NAACP got a lot of inroads, and many of those are in effect. But just to let you know how precarious this work is, they are now attacking that.
Yes.
And they are pulling that work back. That's the goal. That's the attempt. And so it is frustrating that when that these times are things that are changing, and it's just a reminder that nothing is permanent, and we have to remain watchful. We have to stay in this fight, and so that's what we're doing. We're certainly not. We see a lot of things coming, um, and in this moment, sometimes it feels like the battle is lost.
Right.
But our history is that we are resilient people, and we have overcome so much. And so the pendulum of justice, they say, swings back and forth. So we are, holding up that banner and prepared to get that pendulum swinging back in the right direction. So it's definitely a challenge, and it's hard to see the things that you work for then kind of turned around and pressed down. But that's not a reason to give up hope. And because if we can't give up hope. One of my favorite sayings is from Dr. Martin Luther King, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And so a lot of times people say, oh yeah, they quote that, and I always say, people don't hear the word long in that situation. It is a long, long time coming sometimes.
Right.
But it will bend toward justice. And I believe that you are a justice bender, and I'm a justice bender. And so, and that many folks out there, anybody can be a justice bender. And that's the goal. So bending that arc is what we are working on. And that is what we consistently work on.
Betty, talk to us how important it is for us to recognize women.
Ooh, yes.
Talk to us how important is that, and especially as a woman in the struggle, and what you've been doing and being able to accomplish.
Yeah.
How important is for us to have a paradigm shift on how we look at women.
It's so funny because when I was elected to the NAACP state president, I had a couple of comments that people commenting on the fact that I was a woman in leadership, and I was like, what? I was really shocked because it never crossed my mind that was an issue.
Right.
Because I'm, I may be a woman, but I'm who I am, and I'm, one of the players at the table. But historically, women have had a place, a tough place in many in many instances, and certainly not being on par with men, going back to not being able to own property. And I'm I don't consider myself a quote unquote the term feminist, but I definitely believe in equality. So if that means feminist, it is what it is. And I believe that God made people equal, which is that's the whole premise of what I do. And so when I struggle with I'll just tell you that I struggle with women back in the day not being able to own property, women having to be being called by their husband's name.
Right,
there are women in graves that their name is a man's name, and you don't even know what their name is. And having to get certain permissions and things like that, or to be dismissed. Even the conversation about, oh, women are emotional thinkers versus men. We're strategic. We have a knowledge base, and we think this way. No, it's a no for me. I'll even tell you, here's a secret people don't know. I struggle with the term Mrs. And
Really?
oh my God. Yes,
Why?
because men don't have to identify their marital status. At any, like, I could sit at a boardroom table and they go around the table and say, Mr. Abdul-Samad, Mr. Jackson, Mr. John, and Mrs. Andrews. You just told everybody my business. Not to say, but I'm just saying, in as opposed now in personal circumstances, that's a different situation. But when I'm sitting at the table as an equal, what should be revealed should be equal. So anyway, I don't want to get too much on that because I could really go there. So it suffice to say that I believe in women as humans and men as humans, and I believe in equity. I do want to just share that there are a couple of really history makers in Iowa that I'm really excited about. Just a couple, and one, of course, is I'll start with Susan Clark.
Yes.
And for many people may not know that Susan Clark was the daughter of Alexander Clark, and she is the reason that Iowans, before Brown versus the Board of Education, before that, like 86 years before that, so like right after slavery ended, that black kids were able to go to school with white kids. Our schools were integrated. And it's because Susan Clark wanted to go to a school that was closer to her home, that was actually a white school in Muscatine, Iowa. And her family sued and successfully won the right to that. So that's Susan Clark. And then another one, and this is my new favorite Black history fact, and that is that, as we talked about the turmoil of the protests in the 2020,
Right.
George Floyd murder, etc. One of the things that happened is the county of we have a county in Iowa. It's only the second county in the country. They say cities are named after. They say cities are named after. There are some cities that are named after black people, but there are also one county at that time that was named after a black man, and that county was King County, and it was named after Dr. Martin Luther King in Georgia, I believe it was. But now we have two, and the other one is a woman by the name of Lula Merle Johnson, and she is Iowa City. Is where, if you think about Iowa City, that's Johnson County, is that in that area. So Iowa City Board of Supervisors, the Johnson County Board of Supervisors voted to name the city after Miss Johnson. Previously, it had been named Johnson County, but that was actually after Vice President Johnson, who never set his foot in Iowa and was a former slave owner. So they switched it to Lula Merle Johnson. Lulu is she's the first black Iowa woman to earn a PhD. She's the second black woman to earn a PhD in history.
Wow.
And she also is a civil rights advocate and a number of other things. I know we're running short on time, so I don't have to tell you all the things. And then, so she is like my new hero. I've been reading up on her, and she was just a powerful woman. And just the fact that Iowa can boast that we have the first county named after a black woman in our country. So yeah, that's a favorite. So happy Women's History Month, and really good time to spotlight those two folks.
Well, that's awesome. Now, even some recent history makers of women. We have Senator Renee Hart.
Absolutely, Senator Hartman
Yeah.
is a wonder.
One of your besties.
With my good friends, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're good
She's
friends.
actually keynoting our Freedom Fund banquet in Iowa City on this Saturday, so I'll
Wow.
be there to support her. So,
Okay.
yeah, so love Senator Hardman and was blessed to kind of talk with her all the way through that process. And even before that, she had made history as the first African American City Councilwoman in West Des Moines in a certain number of years. I can't remember what it was.
Right.
And glad it's very nice to see that following in her footsteps is another African American woman
Yes.
as well, Fanette.
Yes.
And so, and I apologize for that, the name just went. Yeah, so there's a lot of history there, and then there are a number of legislators. Of course, you've worked with Ruth Ann, you worked with Helen
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Deb Berry.
Yes.
I hate that I might forget one, but also I think about, of course, these people are all walking in the footsteps of Mrs. Glanton.
Glanton.
Yes. so,
Yeah.
so uh, that was those are really great opportunities, and I think about some of we I see that they're honoring Lametta Wynn, who was
Yes.
a former mayor of Clinton. I had the
Clinton.
privilege of meeting her and actually doing a documentary on her,
Wow.
and so it was wonderful to see her. And I did want to just shout out State Representative Willie Stevens in Glanton. So
Glanton.
just want to make sure that we knew who we were talking
Can't
about. 'Cause
forget her.
I did
And-
use that term,
yeah.
Mrs. But anyway, and I'm not.
And don't let me also forget that other dynamic black woman. And let me be clear. And we're talking
There's a
about
lot
women,
of 'em.
but we have to give credit where credit is due, especially with black women. But the
Yes.
one I also want to, and there's two actually.
There's
One
probably 10
future,
or 20 or 30 or.
future, and the one that's with us now, and then the one that Edna Griffin, who was there,
Yes.
and did the sit-in. But I also want to mention, Betty Andrews,
Oh, bless your heart.
who is making history, in what you've been doing and in the work, But I need to take just a short minute, Betty, and so they can get a drink of water, that type of thing. And I need to let people know we got a few minutes left. This is your time to ask any question you want to
Oh,
ask.
they got questions?
Yes.
I didn't know we were doing questions. Oh my God.
You get to ask any question that you always want to ask. You have a historian here. You have a creator here. You have an actress here. You have an individual that has weathered the storm in bringing education,
Oh,
to
that's a
this
really
to
good
this
point.
state.
Yeah.
Yeah, bringing educating us not only from the capital, but educating us when it comes to felon rights, educating us when it comes to human rights, educating us on a spectrum, that helps free our minds. So this is your chance right now that you can type in, ask the question, we'll ask. But I also want to say, we just made history. And I have never met Muhammad Hassan, who typed in and just told us he's watching from Africa. So
Hello, sir.
So April and Langston, we just went international.
Wow.
So I just want to say
I'm
that,
honored,
so brother, I really hope you watching from Africa now. But what we like to do is have you also type in where in Africa are you watching from. He's Somalian.
Oh, wow.
He's in Somalia now.
Yay.
We got the Somalian connection.
That's
All right,
awesome.
all the way from Africa. Thank you, brother Muhammad.
Yes.
Mahmoud. I think it's either Mahmoud. It is Muhammad, as they spell that. Okay, Hassan. Because I was just looking at it. Because I have a brother like that. There's another Maria. We want to recognize you, Maria Reve. Talking about we have a great guest.
Oh, thank you, Maria.
Thank you for being there. Being here. We have Sadar Duncan that joined us, who's usually with us, and we have D. Will, who said to the last comments that you meant, Amen.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So this is your time now. Write it in, type it in, your question, and also this gives us time enough to say, hey, you get a chance to sponsor this podcast. You know, if you want to sponsor this podcast, all you have to do is send a text to my message, you know, and I will get it to April and we'll get you so you can sponsor the program. But it also gives you a chance to what? To support Creative Visions. cvonline.us. cvonline.us. You can do it right online. And if you don't have monetary funds to do that, come and volunteer. And if you don't volunteer here to help us serve some of the homeless, if you don't volunteer here to help us deal with victims advocates, if you don't volunteer here to help us to increase the peace, if you don't volunteer to come and help, you know, in a food pantry, if you don't volunteer, then I ask you, volunteer at the Wilkie House, volunteer at Urban Dreams, volunteer for the next I'll Make Me a World. Reach out to Betty. Reach out to, go and volunteer somewhere because we're all in this together. We are all in this together and we have to make it work. You know, Betty, in these last few minutes, I want to touch on a subject that's dear to me. And this is more, I want your expertise on this. And, you know, because it was something that I actually read on Facebook this morning. It was a comment. It was a post. And I can't remember Susan's, that somebody posted it, but it was a quote from an individual talking about the Palestinian struggle. You know, and it was talking about the first time in history that individuals talking about the Palestinians, you know, actually, you know, are in a situation where not only are they victims of the genocides, they have to deal with the genocides, but then if they speak out about it, the punishment is there in history. What I wanted to get my comment back to that, and I wrote, and my thing is that when we look at history, you know, understanding history, that only did we have a genocide of African American people, but it was the point that we watched as unfortunate they are going through, and we still are, watching men, women, and children killed. But if we spoke out about it, we also not only were chastised, but we were killed in speaking about it. And I commented that way because of the fact that I don't want us ever to minimize any people's struggle, because so many people have struggled, from the native inhabitants of this country who were also in a genocide, to what's going on to, you know, African Americans still in this country, that's going on now in the Congo, that's going on across, that's going on in Gaza, you know, in Palestine right now. And that was my response, you know, as another activist, as someone else fighting for peace and justice, you know, and that's what I put out there, that we need to fight for peace and justice. You know, how do you feel about that?
I think first of all, I am not an expert
Yes,
in this area. I will say that my heart goes out. War is never easy, and I think that your point about not wanting to minimize any people's struggle, you know, coming from a people who have struggled, and I know it is challenging. The news is, for me, listening to the news from there is really devastating, always devastating, and it's like, I think that your answer is spot on, that we need to fight for peace and justice, and what does that look like? You know, I feel like also that, you know, we're in a situation where America's probably dipping into places where they don't need to be dipping into, but you know, specifically with the Palestinian and the Israeli and all of that, that's not an area where I consider myself an expert, and I probably would not want to speak either way on it in terms of that. But I will say that war is challenging, and just the news that I'm hearing is just, it breaks my heart.
Yes.
I mean, and I don't think that those words are enough and grand enough to express the concern that needs to happen with that. But peace, and I think that praying for peace is key for all of us.
Totally agree. Question: what advice would you give women with various interests, expertise, and ambitions like yourself to balance all of your passions as well as family and community involvement?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I often get the question, how does she do it all? And the truth is, nobody can do it all. I will also say that sometimes balance is not necessarily juggling everything at once. Sometimes it's picking a thing and working on that, and then and then at another point in your life, you can work on something else. My kids are grown, so
Right.
I have a little bit more freedom in terms of I'm not getting kids to school and things like that. But going through that and being in it, it definitely was a challenge. So I think that one of the things that you can do is look at balance in a different way, and also not feel bad because you can't do everything. Because the reality is that no, there's not a woman on the earth that can juggle everything perfectly. And it's a give and take no matter what. And you just have to decide what you want to do and be intentional. And I know that that's kind of a saying that you hear a lot, but plan what you want to do, and the things that you want to do, prioritize them. And then some of the stuff, quite frankly, you just have to let it go. Because if you don't let it go, it will run you ragged. And so that's the way I would approach it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also support system. Make sure
Yeah.
you have a sisterhood, if at all possible, even if it's nothing else but to call and whine and cry and do a little gossiping and all of that. All of those things are important. Also pray, definitely. You want to make sure that you're in touch with God and all of that. But yeah, just realize that you're human. That's it.
And that was, because April sent that question in, because when you watch women who are around you, especially as I watch, and I watch as they do juggle, but they, one thing I must say, and individuals like April and especially, and you, I've never seen you give up. I mean,
That part.
yeah, I've never seen you give
Clock
up,
it.
baby. Yeah, and I know there's probably moments that you say, I can't see. I can see you saying I'm tired, but I can never see you saying, should I quit? I can never see that coming from you.
Oh no, quitting comes in. I mean, you
Does
think it? Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
human.
Okay,
Human.
all
Okay. So it does, and quite frankly, there are times when people do need to quit. People need to stop and pull back. It's okay. Like you being in the legislature, there was a time that came. You said, you know what? I'm gonna pull back from this, and I'm gonna invest that time somewhere else. That's okay. So I don't want to give people the impression that they have to do and push and continue on with that, but that just needs to be a decision that they have been intentional about, and they have decided what makes it best. Because quite frankly, there's times when you are continuing to go, and I'll just say I've experienced it, and it is not good for you and your circumstances to continue to go. So evaluate if it's something you want to continue to move in, and yes, you will feel like quitting, you will feel like stopping, but that drive that we talked about earlier, that should be a part of propelling you forward. But not only that drive, make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have a plan in place so that when things get emotional, you still have that plan. And that's important. So it's okay to, want to quit. Now, if you're just jumping and jumping and jumping, that's a different conversation. But sometimes when things are happening, it may be time to make that adjustment,
Right.
and or it may be not at this time, maybe later. That's fine too. And so I think for me, a lot of times what other women need, is permission to be okay with who they are and how they're thinking. Yeah. So, different. I do it one way. Somebody else might do it another way. Thank you, April, for that question, by the way.
Yeah. Betty, time flies.
It does.
Yeah. I mean,
It does.
time flies. Can you give us some closing wisdom?
Oh, it's funny because I was on the phone today and I have two things that I live by. And again, pretty simple. I have more than two things that I live by, but really great things, I think, are number one, and I don't have the scripture, but there's a scripture that says, "You have not because you ask not." So if you need something, ask. One of the keys to my success, I believe, is that I am that person that goes straight to the source, and I'll ask. And yes, Governor, I'm asking you. Yes, Senator, I'm asking you. Yes, whoever, I'm asking you. And then the other one is, nothing beats a failure but a try. Nothing beats a failure but a try. If you don't try, you lose 100% of the time. But if you try, you may win. Say you only win 1 in 10. Guess what? You won 1. If you didn't ask, you would have none. So, and if you didn't try, you'd have none. So nothing beats a failure but a try, but an effort.
That's it.
Yep.
Betty, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here, Cam.
Oh, man. This was good. This was a good show. Boy, I'm telling you, the women that we've had, man, this has been excellent.
I'm sure you've had some great women on.
Oh, man. Yeah, you're one of them.
Oh,
you're here. Yeah. Well, you know what? I can say the clock on the wall says that's all for this Monday. But, it's just, we've learned a lot over these few weeks. We learned a lot tonight. But one of the things I want to just say before we leave, especially to women, and to men, take this to heart also. I really love when Malcolm said, you can tell the strength of a country by the way they treat their women. And if you read my post, I said, right now, America has a D- in how we treat women in this country. And that has to change if we're going to have a strong country. That means we have to support women in leadership. We have to support women in their roles as they take and go forward. We have to be able to do that and respect women in the home. And, not only women who are married but single mothers, and even women who don't have children. We have to understand that, And I say to the women, what I need from you is to demand that respect. You have to demand that respect. Don't settle for second best. And sometimes it's a little rough. Because sometimes, I'm telling you, we can be a little silly. I'm telling you, listen, sometimes we don't know. We have good intentions as men, but we always don't carry the ball correctly. But the key is we have to be able to stand now together, not separately. Don't let individuals, don't let the government, don't let some psychologists that's somewhere out in la-la land tell us how we're supposed to treat one another. Let's deal with each other, because let me tell you, we have to be the example for our babies. We have to be example. I tell you, I get a kick out of this. Man, one thing I love about traveling is when I'm walking through the airport and you see that older couple and they're walking down to the next, you know, spot to change their flight and they're holding hands together, you know. And you know what the thing is? I saw something and I went up and to the couple, April, and I looked at them because they just tickled me to death. But they were walking and holding hands, Betty, and they were holding hands. He reached down and pinched her on her behind, and she giggled, you know. And this is an older couple, you know. And I ran up there, ran next to him. I said, I'm glad he, you know, was good in nature because he might have swung on me or something because I was moving, trying to catch him. And I said, thank you. You know, and I said, thank you just for showing that love to each other while you were walking because that's the example we need. Because he said, yeah, he said, we've been married now for 53 years. And the thing is, it touched me because I knew I'm not going to ever see that. You know, I was up over 53 years when I said, I'm not. So, you know, my thing was, that was an example for me that if I, in the next couple of years, can at least get 10 in,
There you go.
I'll be all right. I'll be happy because I'm going to do my pension too. You know, as I go walk through the airport, you know, because that's the example. We got to show that love for one another. We got to do that because if we show love in our home, it's not going to be hard to show love on the outside. If we show respect in our home, it's not going to be hard to respect other individuals. If we show that we can embrace each other in our home, it won't be hard to embrace each other, whether I'm African American, whether you're Caucasian, whether you're Native American, whether you're Latino, whether you're Jewish, you know, whether you are Palestinian, Muslim, whether you are any other Christian or anything, it won't be hard to embrace because we will understand our differences so our similarities have substance. It won't be hard, folks, but we have to base it on love and we have to have it based on respect of human rights, humanity. Let's bring it back home now and let's be vocal. I'm tired of good people being silent. It's time to speak up. It's time to reach out. It's time to understand with one another that, hey, we no longer have the luxury to be quiet. We don't have that luxury. And I want to say to everyone who's listening now, I love you. I love you, but I'm also understand I'm big enough to say if I did anything to hurt you and you feel it's intentional or unintentionally, I apologize to you. I want you now to reach out and apologize to someone else. I want you to reach out and give that love to someone else. And I want you to speak out against all the atrocities that are happening because I close with this. I love America, and I'm American, and that gives me every right to criticize my country and to help bring resolve to the ills of my country without being labeled that I'm un-American. I have a right to do that because I live here. I was born here, and I have a right to challenge you as you have a right to challenge me. But let's do one thing. Let's respect one another. Let's treat each other as human beings. And let's understand there are differences. And that shouldn't bring hate. That should bring love. So I no longer am going to run from you. I'm going to run to you. Because we have to embrace one another. As I say every now, without a doubt, peace, love, and much respect. Remember, the struggle is real. We can and must win. Good night, everybody. Call somebody. Tell them you love them. I dare you. Do that. And call them. Just don't text them. Good night, everybody. Eddie, thank you.
It is not whether you are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Republican, or Democrat. It's if you are ready to fight for justice for all, no matter what label you are under. Listen, listen. The question is not whether can you die for me. The question is whether can you live for me. If we understand our differences, our similarities will have substance. Listen, listen. The struggle is real. We can and must win. Listen. We can and must win. Listen, listen. It is not whether you are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Republican, or Democrat. It's if you are ready to fight for justice for all, no matter what label you are under. Listen, listen. The question is not whether can you die for me. The question is whether can you live for me. If we understand our differences, our similarities will have substance. Listen, listen. The struggle is real. We can and must win. Listen. We can and must win.